Magna Carta. We've all heard the name, right? It's this legendary document, this cornerstone of freedom and democracy. But what if I told you this story we all think we know? Well, it isn't quite the whole story. Let's really dig into the surprising truth behind the Great Charter. And yeah, that really is the big question. It's this global symbol of liberty, but what did it actually say? For a document that's so famous, it's kind of wild how few of us really know what was in it back in 1215. And believe me, the answer is probably not what you're expecting. All right, so for this deep dive, we're going straight to the source. We're looking at the historical facts compiled by none other than the UK Parliament itself. Okay, so first things first, let's bust a major myth. If you're picturing this as some grand declaration of rights for everybody, well, it wasn't. Not even close. Back in 1215, it had a much more, shall we say, specific and, frankly, self-interested goal.
So what was it then? At its absolute core, the Magna Carta was basically a peace treaty. Seriously. You had this super unpopular king, King John, who had been pushing his luck, abusing his power, and his top barons, they were fed up. They were in open rebellion. This Great Charter was pretty much a last-ditch effort to stop a full-blown civil war.
So you can forget any ideas about poetic language and soaring speeches on liberty. The document itself was, well, it was basically a long, detailed grievance list. I'm talking 63 clauses, most of which were just the barons laying out their very specific, very 13th century problems with the king. And when I say specific, I mean specific. Some of these demands were surprisingly, well, normal. We're talking things like, hey, king, stop forcing widows to get remarried, or standardizing the measurements for wine and ale, super important, I guess, and making sure inheritance rights were protected. All important stuff for them, for sure, but it's hardly the universal cry for freedom we imagine. But, and this is the incredible part, this is where the whole story turns. Because buried inside that medieval laundry list, hidden among all the complaints about fish traps and royal forests, were 4 ideas. 4 truly revolutionary principles that, honestly, would go on to change the entire world. Principle number 1, the rule of law. Now, this was a game changer. For the very first time, it was put in writing that the king wasn't above it all. He couldn't just do whatever he wanted because he was king. No, even the monarch, especially the monarch, had to follow the law of the land. Absolutely groundbreaking. Next up, number 2, and this is probably the one you've heard of. Due process. The right to a fair trial. I mean, think about it. This is the idea that some powerful person can't just snatch you up, throw you in prison, and take all your stuff just because they feel like it. No way. There had to be a proper legal process. And here it is, the actual quote from the famous Clause 39. No free man shall be seized or imprisoned, except by the lawful judgment of his equals or by the law of the land. Just let that sink in. Those words are over 800 years old, and they are the absolute bedrock of what we consider a basic human right today. That's just incredibly powerful. Okay, principle number 3 flows right from that last one, access to justice. The idea that justice can't be bought, can't be denied, and it can't be delayed just because someone doesn't like you. It means the system has to be impartial, available to everyone, not just for sale to the richest person in the room. And the 4th big one, oh, this one had legs. We're talking about consent for taxation. Basically, no taxation without representation, but the 13th century version. It meant the king couldn't just make up new taxes when he ran out of cash. He had to ask for permission, or common council. You can draw a straight line from this idea to things like the American Revolution centuries down the road. It planted the very first seeds of parliamentary control over money. So there you have it, 4 incredible, world-changing ideas, all born from this messy medieval negotiation. But let's snap back to the document itself. After more than 800 years of new laws, of repeals, of reforms, what's actually left? How many of those original 63 clauses are still on the books in England today? You ready for this? The answer is 3. Just 3. That's it. Out of that whole long list of 63 clauses hammered out in a field back in 1215, only a tiny handful have survived as actual law. So which ones made the cut? Well, you've got one that guarantees the freedom of the English church, okay? Then there's another that protects the ancient liberties of the City of London. But then you have the big one, the survivor that really matters, the right to due legal process. That powerful ideal we just talked about. So,
That leads to the biggest question of all, doesn't it? If almost the entire thing has been repealed and is legally irrelevant, why do we still care so much? Why is the Magna Carta still this massive global symbol of freedom? Because, and this is really the whole point, it's not about the specific rules anymore. It's not about the text. It's about the principles. The Magna Carta's real power, its legacy, is in those huge universal ideas it brought into the world. It became a symbol, an idea that is so much bigger than the parchment it was written on.
Think about it. Those 4 principles we talked about, they became the blueprint for so much of our world. The right to a fair trial, the idea that nobody, not a king, not a president, nobody is above the law. The very development of parliament, and yeah, modern democracy and human rights. It all traces back to those ideas.
When you boil it all down, the Magna Carta was the first time anyone really succeeded in putting it down in black and white. Power has to have limits. And that leaves us with a pretty big question, one that's just as important today as it was way back in 1215. How do we make sure those limits on power are respected right now?